I'm sure many of you went to the Cybernetic Horizon sneak peek this past weekend, and you might be excited for certain cards in the set, but I know that a lot of my fans were really excited for the new Danger cards, as am I. I've played them on several live streams. I pretty much played them for 2 weeks straight before I switched over to playing Battery Man, and I think I'm experienced enough with the deck to actually talk about the pros and cons of the strategy if you're looking to get into it. And I'm also going to show my own personal deck list for this deck after like 2 weeks of live streams, and then I'm also going to show you and talk about some cards that I wasn't playing in my final build after those 2 weeks, but that you probably could consider playing if you're interested in trying new things out. So the Danger archetype right now consists of 4 monsters of varying levels and types, and then it also has 1 field spell card, which is terrible, and then it has 1 trap card. And the main cards of this archetype are the 4 monsters, and I compare them to a mix of Dark World and Burning Abyss. Now, a lot of people didn't agree with my comparison that they are like Burning Abyss monsters, but I really feel that they are. Of these 4 monsters, 3 of them have effects that are basically mirror images of Graph, Seer, and Skarm, although the Skarm effect is just an immediate search, not an end phase search, but I think that makes them similar enough to Burning Abyss. They're also all dark monsters, and they also have in-hand special summoning effects. Now, the reason that they're similar to Dark World is that they also have discarding effects, but we'll get to that in a second. So the main way that you summon these guys is by their in-hand effects. So with any of the Danger monsters we have right now, you can reveal them in their hand, and then your opponent randomly picks a card from your hand, and if they pick the card that you revealed, you just discard it and that's it. But if they pick a card you did not reveal, you special summon the card you revealed and you draw a card, and then you discard whatever they picked. So the reason this is important is because all of them have discard effects. So for example, Danger Bigfoot discard, when it's discarded, blows up a face-up card, and that's really good. Obviously, you have Danger Nessie, which searches a card. You have Danger Jackalope, which special summons a guy from the deck, and then lastly, you have Danger Chupacabra, which special summons from the grave. So you can see that Nessie is basically Skarm, Jackalope is basically Graph, and then Chupacabra is basically Seer. So that's kind of your main combo. You're revealing a guy, preferably revealing the one that you don't want to discard, because you let's say you really want to special summon a guy from the deck. So you have a hand of Bigfoot and you have a hand of Jackalope. What you want to do is reveal the Bigfoot so that if your opponent picks the Jackalope, you then special summon Bigfoot, draw a card, and then special summon a guy from your deck with the Jackalope effect, hopefully do some damage. And that's really good. I think overall this core engine is really powerful. It's also worth noting that the in-hand effects are not hard once per turns or even once per turns at all. You can just continuously keep revealing them and special summoning them and stuff like that, so that's really good. Their discard effects are hard once per turn though, and these cards overall I think are good. They do activate when you discard them for cost that is different than the Dark Worlds, and actually a lot of people at this moment, and myself included, are combining these with Dark Worlds because that really, you want to play, one of the challenges about this deck is that you want to play cards that you either are okay discarding, like the Dark Worlds, like the Danger cards, or cards that you can set, because the problem is that I found this deck is that you can't really play a lot of hand traps, you can't play a lot of quick play spells, you can't play a ton of trap cards, because every card in your hand has the potential to be discarded. So you want to be able to set it and then get your hand to all things that you're comfortable discarding, so from there you can activate your Danger effects and you always hit something good. That's basically what you're trying to do. Some other challenges that I found in this deck is that anytime that you open Danger Chupacabra and no other real discard outlets besides the Danger cards, you're in a rough spot, because anytime Chupacabra is in your hand as your sort of first activation for a Danger card, you have the potential to just totally hit a blank card. And what I mean by that is that even if you don't activate the Chupacabra effect, if you activate another effect and then discard the Chupacabra, it can't special summon itself, so you don't get the special summon effect. And then if you activate the Chupacabra in your hand and you hit that card, not only do you not get the Chupacabra effect, but you also have now missed out on a special summon and a draw. So I find that having that card in your hand with no other discard outlets is probably like the worst hands that this deck can have. But yeah, I think overall this deck is pretty good, and let's just jump right into my builds here. So you can see that I'm playing Dark Worlds, and I'll kind of go through here here as we see things. So I am playing 3 copies of Bigfoot, of Nessie, Jackalope, and Chupacabra. They're all insanely important. You kind of go through all of them. For the Dark World engine, we have 3 Grapha, super important, and there actually is a loop with Firewall in this deck, I guess. I know that was it was really big on Mega Capital G's channel when the deck first was announced. Honestly, I think this deck is made to be played as a blind going second strategy, so I wouldn't worry about that too much, but it's worth mentioning. And then we have 3 Snow, 3 Brow. I'm playing 1 Beige and 1 Tour Guide. These are kind of tech options. You don't necessarily have to play them. I like them though. You don't really use your normal summon this deck, so maybe there's other cards you can play, but Tour Guide seems pretty strong. I like getting Levier. And we have 3 of the Gates of Dark World. Super good card. It is worth mentioning that Chupacabra is a fiend monster, so you can actually banish it for Gates. That's really strong. We have 3 Dark World Dealings, which I'm kind of iffy on. Like, Dark World Dealings is obviously a good card if you can discard stuff, and it's a good engine starter, but I think that there are potentially better options, and also I think that this card is really, really bad in the mirror match, and that's one thing that I found. And one of the reasons that I started going blind second is that if my opponent activated Dark World Dealings against me, then I could get the bonus effects of Snow or Brow and just completely blow my opponent out of the water. And then I'm playing Monster Reborn and Soul Charge. I think that's really important. I am playing the Sky Striker engine here. I don't know if it's necessary, but it's really good. And the reason it's really good is because I found the games that I was winning, all of them pretty much where I was able to summon the Nightmare monsters, because the Nightmare monsters trigger the danger effects, and that is so broken. Like, when you summon Phoenix off of 1 Hornet, and then you pop an opponent's back row, discarding Bigfoot to pop another card, that's just so much value off of just your little 2-card combo there. It's just insane. And I found that I wanted to use as many Nightmare effects as much as possible, as early as possible. So I really like the Sky Sticker engine for that. You also have a lot of ways to get spell cards in the graveyard. You have a lot of cycle cards like Dark World Dealings. You can very easily get the 3 spells engraved for the Engage to draw that extra card. That's really powerful. And this is a deck that really wants to play with a ton of cards in your hand, so you can discard a whole bunch of valuable things and get a whole bunch of good effects. So I think that Engage is really good as well. If you can't afford Engage, I think that you can still just play the Hornet. I think that a lot of people are underestimating the value of the Nightmare cards in this strategy, and I think that when I was playing this deck, one of the reasons I won a lot of the games that I won was because I picked second and I opened Hornet, and I was able to get so much value off of discarding the danger cards. Now obviously the Nightmare cards do not trigger the Dark World, so don't discard those, but definitely you want to discard the danger cards. They're really good. And then the last card I played, I'm playing 2 of the Trap card. This card is weird. It's not a starter card. It's not really an engine card. You can search it with Nessie, so it's possible that you only want to play 1. I found 3 to be way too cloggy. The reason I like this card in this deck in particular, more so than the other danger variants that I played, is that when you don't kill your opponent, but you have a pretty good board, you can then use Danger Zone to hopefully draw into and discard a Bigfoot and a Grapha, which then pops 2 cards, and that's a pretty good trap. You get a lot of draws, you get some destruction effects. That's really good when that resolves. I don't know if it's really worth playing at more than 2 copies. I found 3 was just not good enough. It is worth mentioning that one of the areas that this deck struggles on, when I was playing this deck, I found it doesn't have an end goal, and that's kind of why you want to go second. This deck's very good at breaking boards. It's pretty lackluster at actually making boards, which is kind of weird. We don't really see that in Yu-Gi-Oh right now. Even some of the best going second strategies, like going second spirals, those can still make a pretty big board. However, in this deck, because all your danger monsters are different levels, and even they're different levels from the Dark World cards, I mean, you have 1/3 here, you have 1/3 here, 1/4, 1/4, but you don't really have a ton of level 4s or a ton of level 3s. All that kind of stuff. This deck doesn't really make any crazy boards. I mean, like I said, I mentioned the Firewall loop, which is where you basically, if you have Grapha in the grave and a Dark World on board where Firewall is pointing, you can bounce the Dark World to special Grapha, and then Firewall, and then you can use the Grapha for Link, and then you can special summon the Dark World from your hand, bounce it back to your hand, summon Grapha again. I don't think those wombo combos actually happen that often, to be completely honest. I think they're good for like showing off on a channel. I don't think they actually happen in like real practice. So yeah, a lot of the times when you're like killing your opponent, you're just summoning like Bigfoot, Grapha, and like one of the other guys. You're not really setting up like a whole bunch of extra deck monsters, which is kind of interesting that we have a strategy like that now. But that definitely is, it kind of feels like playing Burning Abyss without Dante like in the first set. Yeah, you'll still win because the Burning Abyss cards are like efficient, but you don't really have like a big card to end on. The extra deck is fairly standard here. You just have some rank 4s, you have Levier, Hope Harbinger is pretty important. You have some standard sort of extra deck cards as far as the links go. Nightmares are really important. Gumblar Dragon is super good in this deck. Discard those dangers, get those effects. That's really powerful. And then the Sky Striker cards. I suppose by the time that these come out, we have the green Sky Striker. I don't know if it's actually that important to play, though. I don't know what I'd cut. Maybe like Space Insulator. As far as other cards that I considered playing, but that aren't in this list, but I did play at different times. Dragdown is a card that a lot of people are playing. I like this card. I don't love this card. I think the main benefit of this card is if you're not playing the Sky Striker engine, you can always just set all the cards in your hand besides the Danger and Dark Worlds. But the fact that this card does kind of conflict with Hornet Bit, I mean, certainly you can activate the Hornet Bit before you use your Dragdown, but if you have like Engage and Dragdown, you're kind of in a weird spot. So I don't really like this card. It's okay. I guess the more accurate thing is that I don't love this card. It's fine, and a lot of people have had success with it. It's also another card that's just really bad in the mirror match. This card, though, is really cool. The Guru of the Dark World. So this card's effect is kind of confusing, but basically, if this card is discarded by a card effect or whatever, you special summon it to your opponent's side of the field, and then while it's on your opponent's side of the field, it has this effect. So when this card is special summoned with the effect of a Dark World card, your opponent must discard one card. So basically what that's doing is it's giving your opponent this card to force you to discard, which matters because, yeah, you can discard the danger cards, but the Dark World cards then get their bonus effects because by that time it's on your opponent's side of the field, so it's actually your opponent's card effect, which is kind of cool. I came across a couple people playing this card. I don't know if I'm like a huge fan because it's kind of a brick. One of the issues with this deck, and one of the things I try to sort of circumvent with a couple different builds I was playing, is that pretty much all the monsters in your deck do nothing on the field, which is kind of disappointing. That's kind of like one of the biggest pitfalls of the strategy right now. So I tried playing like Phantom Knights. Those are pretty good, but I don't know. It seems to be like the most powerful version for going second. Trade-in's pretty good. You can discard Bigfoot, pop a card. It won't trigger Grapha, but it will just trigger the Bigfoot, which is cool. Allure of Darkness, it's pretty much all darks. I just didn't find the room for this card. I suppose that a lot of these sort of other options are if you just don't play the Sky Strikers, then you free up 7 spots. And it's actually pretty likely that Sky Strikers will get hit on a coming ban list, so maybe people won't even really be able to play this deck with them. But in my testing, they were really good because of the Nightmare cards. And then lastly, I was testing with Nightmare, Mermaid, and Ibli and stuff like that, especially if you're playing that like big Firewall combo, you need to be playing these cards, but I think in general I just didn't use them ever. I think I played them for like 3 streams, and I literally never summoned Mermaid once. Maybe if you like edit the build a little bit, you'll play a build that's more link summoning centric, but for me personally, I just didn't find myself using this. I think another issue with this card for me personally is that I wasn't playing that going first build, and honestly, I don't think the going first build is good. I've played against a lot of mirror matches. They go first, and basically what they do, they set up a Nessie, they set up a Grapha, and then like one other random monster, and then they just pass. Because like, if you look at this deck, outside of when you draw Soul Charge and can make like the Firewall loop and set up a whole like extra link board, outside of that, like you don't really have anything you're trying to end on. Like it's all just random effect monsters. They don't have any on-field stun effects. Like, yeah, you can end on like Harbinger and Firewall sometimes, but not that often. I don't know. I just don't think this deck, I think with this strategy, you're really just trying to go second and break your opponent's board because that's actually what it's good at. Anyway, though, I think it's going to wrap up this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this introduction to Danger Dark Worlds, and of course, I'm sure I'll get a lot of feedback. I think a lot of people really do like Dragdown. I'm not a huge fan, but I'm sure I'm happy to be proven wrong. I think this deck's really cool. I hope people actually give it a shot. I hope whatever ban list eventually comes out sort of makes this deck a little bit more viable. I think that could be kind of cool. But yeah, I'll see you guys later. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.